Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
And today we're going to be talking about masks. Okay, no, the pandemic is pretty much over. You don't need to worry about wearing surgical masks, although we will mention that kind of mask, but we're talking about masks in general that are used in different kinds of situations.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of different types of masks. So that's why we've named the title of the article Versatile World of Masks. Versatile just means able to use something for a lot of different things, or maybe you know someone who's described as versatile. Maybe they have a lot of different skills or talents. Before we dive in, though, guys, we're going to listen to today's article, at least day one, and then we'll be back. Think of an item that serves many purposes in modern life. It can be used at costume parties, in traditional ceremonies, or to provide disease protection, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're talking about masks, which are not just face coverings, but an essential part of human activities. Masks can provide protection in high-stakes situations. During medical procedures, masks keep doctors and patients away from germs and minimize infection risks. In hostile military environments, gas masks shield soldiers from chemical and biological hazards. Meanwhile, in sports, athletes wear masks to prevent potential facial injuries, especially in rough sports like hockey. In the world of disguise, masks can transform wearers into anonymous entities. Situations that call for masks range from blending into theme parties to more serious events like remaining unrecognized in a protest. For example, the Guy Fawkes mask has emerged from the pages of the graphic novel V for Vendetta to become a universal symbol of rebellion for those pushing for change. However, this power to conceal identities can sometimes be misused by those intent on violating the law, such as robbers. There is also the symbolic use of masks in art and culture. In many traditional rituals, masks are believed to be a bridge connecting wearers to the spiritual world. On the other hand, it's conventional to wear masks in some forms of performing arts. This practice dates back to ancient Greek theater. A famous modern example is Japan's No, a classical drama form where dozens of mask patterns stand for characters of different ages and genders, from human to immortal beings.
Okay, it's time for us to describe the contents of today's lesson. Again, we're going to go back to the title here, The Versatile World of Masks. Okay, so Stephanie just touched on the meaning of this word versatile, which means able to be used in lots of different situations. Flexible is another word. And I should mention that this word can also be pronounced as versatile. It depends on who you're talking to. And we are talking about masks. And before we do talk about masks, though, I should mention that we've got different kinds of masks in English, but we use the same word, like for 口罩, which are surgical masks that you wear if you're sick or something like that. That is different, but we still use the same word mask in English, and 面具 is the other word for mask. We use the word mask for both those terms, although you have different terms in Chinese.
Yeah, it's a little different. Sometimes, if we're talking about the English word, we'll have lots of different terms, and you'll maybe have one Chinese term for the same thing. Doesn't matter if it's a noun or a verb. I think that's so interesting. And then it's sometimes vice versa, or the opposite way, where you guys will have a lot of different names, and we'll only have one name for something. So that's the world we're moving in nowadays. So we're back to day one. Let's take a look at the first paragraph. It says, think of an item, something that serves many purposes in modern life. Yeah, those sorts of things are very handy. Then you don't have to have too many things in your home if you can have one gadget or one device that can be used in a lot of different ways for different things. I love that. For example, a pair of shoes that can be dressy or kind of casual at the same time. Maybe you have clothes that can serve the same purpose. You can We will often say, ladies, oh, we can dress this up or dress it down depending on where I'm going. Well, masks are like that. They can be used in a lot of different ways in life. They have a lot of purposes.
Right, so that just means it's versatile, it's flexible. And in the next sentence here, it says, it can be used at costume parties, in traditional ceremonies, or to provide disease protection, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is a mask again. You can wear it to a costume party. If you're a child, you can wear one. If you go trick-or-treating at Halloween, it can also be used in traditional ceremonies, which would be something more serious. It wouldn't be something just for fun. And, of course, it can provide disease protection. But again, we're talking about a surgical mask there. But again, it's still a kind of mask. And those, of course, were quite common during the COVID-19 pandemic a couple of years ago. People still wear those masks nowadays, even though the danger is pretty much gone now. But in any case here, these are different kinds of masks here that can be used in different kinds of situations. Now, a ceremony, of course, is an event that takes place in order to commemorate something or to initiate something. You could have an opening ceremony to, say, the Olympics or something, where they have the formal parade of nations. A wedding, it can be a ceremony. You could have a bar mitzvah if you're a Jewish boy becoming of age. That would be a ceremony. There are all sorts of ceremonies in different situations.
I just realized we do have another word for a type of mask, and that's a veil. And when you get married, a lot of women will wear those beautiful veils over their faces that would kind of hide who they are. You can't really see clearly through the veil until they lift it up for a kiss. So that is a type of mask, but we use the word veil for that.
That's right. Okay, so again, masks can be used in lots of different situations. And a pandemic, of course, is when a disease is all over the world, like COVID-19 was. Now, we're talking about masks, which are not just face coverings, but an essential part of human activities. So we've introduced this topic for today. That's what we're talking about. That's the subject of today's lesson. It's masks. And they're not just to cover your face, but they can also be important in certain human activities. They can be used in performances as well, and we'll mention some examples as our lesson continues.
So masks, they can do one thing. They can provide protection in high-stakes situations. When you have a high-stakes situation of any kind, there's a lot at risk. I don't know where this originally came from, high stakes, or if there's a high-stakes, maybe a high-stakes gambling situation you're in. Maybe a lot of money has been bet on a particular hand that you're playing in poker or something. That can be a high-stakes situation. But if the stakes are high, we'll turn it around like that sometimes. And we'll talk like, we'll use, the stakes are really high on this particular project. We've got a lot of money invested, and if it goes wrong, we're going to lose this important client. So it can be a risky situation. That's what high stakes means if you just see it on its own.
Right, so they need to be used in certain situations, especially during medical procedures. So during medical procedures like surgery or an operation, masks keep doctors and patients away from germs and minimize infection risks. Okay, so yes, we can understand that doctors and nurses and other medical professionals need to wear masks. If they're working on a patient, the patient himself may need to wear a mask as well. And yes, they're important during these medical procedures because we've got those nasty things called germs, which are really small things, living things that can spread from person to person. Germs, that is a general term for bacteria, for viruses, and other pathogens, as we may call them, that spread and can cause problems. And we wear those masks to minimize infection risks. To minimize just means to make it as low as possible. And infection means that these diseases, these germs, these viruses spread from person to person, and then they can get sick too. So we don't want people to get infected or to get that same problem as well because they'll be in contact with those people or they'll eat the same food they did, etc., etc.
We sometimes use infected to talk about our computers too, right?
Yep.
If you get some sort of bad virus, it's interesting to me that Bill Gates invented both of these types of things. The virus that goes in your computer and the one where he's trying to get us all to take his vaccines. Keep those in mind. So infection can be the process of something infecting something else, the state of being infected. You can be exposed to germs, as Tom said, and be infected with some sort of disease. Sometimes if you get a cut on your hand or some part of your body and germs get inside, maybe some type of bacteria gets inside, then it can get infected and inflamed and kind of get red and ugly, and you need to take care of that. So if you minimize something, you reduce it. So you want to reduce those risks. Now, here's another example. If you're in a hostile military environment, gas masks shield soldiers from chemical and biological hazards. Back in World War I is when we first started having other armies try to kill their enemy soldiers through gas, really dangerous gas that they would release. And then you saw those scary gas masks that the World War I soldiers would wear. They look horrible. I went to a museum once and saw them up close, and they look like monster masks. I don't know how many people they saved because they weren't very hygienic, you could say. They didn't really have very good technology back then. But if you want to see what those look like, go look at some of the pictures from World War I. I hear that those masks are coming back into style, though, because we've got some bad people out there wanting to release gas, dangerous gas to kill people again. What is hostile, though, Tom?
Hostile means it's dangerous. It can cause harm. This word could also be read hostile. It's an unfriendly situation. We might be subject to hostile attack from our enemies, for example, or maybe someone is hostile to you in the office. They're trying to get you in trouble with the boss. They're trying to get you fired or something. So that could be a hostile work environment. So you might want to consider finding a different job.
Or maybe someone's flirting with you a lot and it's becoming uncomfortable. That's described as being a hostile work environment as well.
Exactly. So these are hostile military environments like battlefields and stuff like that, especially during World War I. As you said, gas masks can shield soldiers from chemical and biological hazards. I remember many years ago when I came to Taiwan, this is decades ago, there wasn't the MRT yet, so Taipei was much more polluted than it is now. I actually considered wearing a gas mask when I would ride my scooter or bicycle in Taipei traffic, but that, of course, was silly. I never did that, but I did consider that. But nowadays, the pollution is not so bad, so I would never consider that. Although every once in a while, I do see someone wear like those, what is it, N95 masks or whatever that supposedly protect you from all sorts of pathogens and pollution or whatever. But again, these are some uses for masks. Meanwhile, in sports, athletes wear masks to prevent potential facial injuries, especially in rough sports like hockey. I'm thinking mostly of American football. The football players will wear helmets, and then on the front of the helmet will be a mask, okay?
A face mask.
A face mask, right. So it's like metal bars or something that protect the player's face. If some other player is trying to bash them in the head or something like that, or to poke them in the eye, they will wear those protective masks, and they want to prevent those facial injuries. So a facial injury is an injury or damage to your face. You might break your nose, you might cut your lip or whatever. So in some rough sports, you need to wear helmets and masks.
I think we've got a lot of rough sports out there, especially for the men. Sometimes they'll put teeth guard devices within their mouths to protect their teeth from being broken. Although the hockey players, I think all of them have broken all their teeth. In the past, they don't care anymore. So yeah, you got to wear masks sometimes to prevent potential facial injuries. As Tom said, facial is just the adjective word for the noun face. So facial injuries. Yeah, so there are some important reasons why we still see masks today, especially those face masks that are attached to helmets in sports. Right now, guys, we're going to take a quick break, listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。我们今明2天要带大家看一个东西，这个东西呢就叫做面具哈。我们平常很少会去思考面具要做什么，但是我们平常还蛮常戴口罩的。在英文当中，这个口罩跟面具啊，跟中文其实就是同样一个字，就叫做 mask， 反正戴在脸上的就叫做 mask。可是我们中文说口罩跟面具好像不太一样，对不对？好，不管啦。总而言之呢，这2天带大家看一下面具。那这个 Day 1的这个文章呢，我觉得写得蛮工整的。因为其实啊，当我们在看一个东西或者是要说明一个东西的时候，段落的那个主题句非常重要。在英文当中的主题句的意思就是我告诉你我这一段大概要讲什么哦，我的主题是什么。所以通常主题句就会出现在段落的第1句或者是第2句。而且在英文的描写当中啊，这就是文章里面通常就是会这样，很少绕来绕去的。当然小说啦或者是创作文学除外。所以你看哦，第一段的第1句其实就直接告诉我们整篇文章到底要讲什么。虽然感觉上是个起始句，要我们大家想一想，在现代生活当中有没有什么东西有很多目的的呢？到底是什么呢？想一想这个东西，其实这个第1句就有一个限定用法的关系子句。先行词是 an item， 那这个 item 的话就是一样，我们会被一样商品或一个东西，一项什么什么什么东西啊，其实就是想一个东西啦。什么东西呢？东西那么多，从 that 到句尾，这个限定用法限定这个东西必须要 serve 作为有 many purposes， 有很多的目的，在我们现代的生活当中。所以可能是化妆舞会、传统仪式、COVID-19 期间的疾病保护啦，到底是什么呢？就是所谓的 mask。 那这个所谓的不管讲叫做面罩、面具啊，这个东西其实是我们人类活动当中啊不可缺的一部分。在第1段的第3句这个地方有一个关系子句，但是它是补充说明的哦。这个补充说明的意思就是我只是补充说明我们刚刚谈的人事或者是物。例如在第3句逗点前面的先行词是 masks， 它已经加了复数，只要是戴在脸上都叫 masks， 就不需要去限定是什么 masks。 反正总而言之，我们今天就是要讨论 masks， 所以逗点休息一下 which。 而这个所谓的面具或面罩啊，基本上不管是用作面部的覆盖物，或者是我们把它提升一下，其实它是人类活动当中不可缺的一部分。好，所以接下来我们就会针对这个第1段提到的很多的 purposes， 它到底有哪些功能，来提到面具或者是所谓口罩的这样子的用法。在第2段当中一开始就告诉我们啦，其实在高风险的情况之下，口罩就是可以提供保护的。所以第一个 purpose， 第一个 function 就出现在第2段第1句的 protection 这个字。那后面有很妙哦，这个地方你可以把它学起来。所谓的高风险的情况叫做 high stakes situation。 那个 stake 指的是非常的这个冒险的意思啦。所谓的 stake 因为它本来就是股本或甚至在赌博当中的赌金，所以如果你今天投资的金额很高，或者是在赌的时候赌得很大，那个 stake 很多，当然就是一个 high stake 的状况。那我们也都知道，不管是投资或赌博，它的风险都是很高啦。所以在英文当中，所谓的高风险情况叫做 high stakes。 好，那什么样的一个情况下要提供保护呢？比如说在整段当中就有提到医疗程序当中，我们都知道口罩就是可以远离细菌啊，减少感染啦。所以在第2段的第2句就看到一些关键字，例如第2句后面一点的 germs 可以远离细菌，甚至后面的 infection 远离一些感染。那在第3句当中呢，就有提到甚至在军事环境当中 military environments， 我们会看到军人戴防毒面具耶。这个防毒面具呢是要防一些有毒气体，所以我们看到的关键字叫做 gas masks。 好，当然这个第3段在第2段的第3句最后面这个字 hazard 也可以学起来，它指的是非常非常危险的状况，危害或者是很危险的状况。那在这一段当中，我们特别注意一个转折词语哦，在第3句后面之后看到的是 meanwhile。 Meanwhile 的这个同时啊，就表示我要谈同样的事情，所以我们同样也列举了在保护功能上面还有什么样的情况呢？例如 in sports 在体育运动当中，当然戴的一些面罩就可以防止脸部的一些伤害，所以我们在最后面这一句就有看到 facial injuries， 例如像是 hockey 曲棍球啊这种激烈的运动。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue talking about masks. It's our featured subject for this month. We're talking about the versatile world of masks in our life unit for the month of September. And we did mention that there are different kinds of masks. We were talking about surgical masks, which doctors and nurses need to wear in hospitals and clinics to prevent infection.And then soldiers can wear masks in hostile military environments like battlefields where they're using mustard gas or something like that. And then, of course, we talked about masks that some athletes wear because these sports are kind of rough, so they need to wear helmets and masks to protect their faces or to prevent facial injuries or injuries to their face. Moving on to the next paragraph here, it says, in the world of disguise,Masks can transform wearers into anonymous entities. So we're talking about the world of disguise. That means you're trying to not let people know who you are. So you want to wear a mask so that people can't tell who you are. And that's what the world of disguise is. Okay, so maybe you're a criminal and you don't want people to recognize you. You might wear a mask so that no one can recognize you.And these masks can transform wearers into anonymous entities. Now, we should first talk about the word entity here. That's just something that exists, okay? You could use that in a lot of different situations, but here we're talking about people, but we don't know who they are, okay? They're just a person, and that's all we know. We don't know who they are. We don't know if they're a boy or a girl. We don't know if they're tall or short. We just know it's a person.And they're anonymous, which means they don't have a name. We don't know who they are.
We really don't. I wanted to talk about entity because sometimes we use it in kind of a joking way. We'll say, yeah, he's treating me like a non-entity, non-N-O-N, like not an entity. So just meaning they're treating me like I don't even exist. So an entity,It's a thing that's distinct. It doesn't have to be someone who's alive, but it has to be distinct and have independent characteristics. So an entity could be used. We don't see it much here in English here in Taiwan, but you should know what it means in case you come up against it or bump up against it, especially if you're at work and someone uses that word entity. What are they talking about? They're just talking about something.It could be an organization. It could be a person. Just have to listen carefully. So I think it's the first time we've ever actually described this word.
Yeah.
Here at English Digest. It's kind of a good one to know, though. You'll see it sometimes, and sometimes it's used in a joking way. As Tom said, anonymous means we just don't know who that person is. We don't even know, as he said, if it's a guy or a girl, or what they look like, where they come from, nothing.So they can transform wearers into these anonymous entities, meaning we have no idea what they are or who they are. Situations that call for masks, if a situation calls for something, it's not picking up the phone and calling somebody. It just means situations that need that thing or that require that thing range from, you might want to blend into the background, not have people, kind of know who you are.You might want to, here it says, blend into theme parties. For example, Halloween parties. People will want to dress up in different costumes. You don't have to wear a mask, but it's sometimes really fun if you do, to get people guessing who you are. Masks can cover all of your face. Usually you have to keep a spot open for your eyes. But if you go to Disneyland, for example, they have something covering the eye part.On some of the masks, they can still see through it, the people, who are wearing the masks. But you really can't see if that person has blue eyes or brown eyes or who they are. So you can disguise your identity. You can, just remain anonymous if you want to. So theme parties have them. And then there are more serious events like remaining unrecognized if you go and participate in a protest.
Right, and a protest, of course, takes place when people gather, usually in front of a government building, to say they aren't satisfied with a government policy or something like that. We see protests on college campuses in the United States, for example. There were recently a lot of protests against Israel's war with Hamas. And so a lot of people were protesting that. I should mention that here protest is being used as a noun. We also have the verb form protest, but most Americans will pronounce these words the same whether they're a verb or a noun, protest. I'm going to go protest the government's policies today. We're going to have a protest. And again, if you attend a protest, you may not want the government to know you were there. So you might wear a mask so that they won't know you were there causing trouble.
Now, there's a movie that was made from a comic book or a graphic novel called V for Vendetta. It's a good movie if you haven't seen it. There's a character that wears something called the Guy Fawkes mask. And this mask has emerged from the pages of a very popular graphic novel called V for Vendetta. And it's become a universal symbol of rebellion for those pushing for change, especially those who are fighting against a fascist government who is taking away the freedom of the people. They don't want to be recognized. Now, if you wear this kind of mask, it would be hard to recognize who you are. If you wear a kojiao or, the mask that people have been wearing for colds over here, they're going to figure out who you are. Those don't really disguise you very well. But this kind of mask is something that would really be hard to figure out who it is. But as Tom was telling me during a break, the technology has improved to the point where governments can recognize people by the way they walk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've gotten so good. So don't think a mask is going to disguise who you are. Be careful.
But maybe nowadays it still will work. Who knows? And we've got the Guy Fawkes mask, and that, of course, came from V for Vendetta. Mm-hmm. Guy Fawkes was a person from British history, mm-hmm. English history. I think he tried to do something against the government, and he was hanged as a result. Mm-hmm. And later on, we got this mask of what he looked like or the mask he wore. And this, of course, was also used in this novel. So that's where the mask comes from. I think it's that one that's got kind of the grin on his face with a mustache that is turned up on both ends. It's kind of an interesting mask. I've seen it quite a lot. And, of course, that's where it came from. A graphic novel, of course, is like manga, basically.
Kind of, yeah.
A novel that's in comic book form. And, of course, that
But it's for adults.
Yes,
let's
usually,
say that.
Usually a graphic novel is for adults. It's not a manga. But in any case here, it's used as a symbol of rebellion for those who want to change something. They're against government policy or whatever.
Well, this power to conceal identities is something that people are hoping for with masks. But sometimes masks can also be misused by those who are breaking the law, like robbers. Moving on to the final paragraph, there's also the symbolic use of masks in art and culture, especially over here in Asia, which is fun. In traditional rituals, masks are believed to be a bridge that connect wearers to the spiritual world. Spiritual meaning having to do with religion or the other world, things that are opposed to physical things here on earth. So on the other hand, it's conventional to wear masks in some forms of performing arts, especially here in Taiwan, where we have Chinese theater, which is very fun. This practice dates way back to ancient Greek theater. They used to wear masks then too. And a famous modern example is Japan's No. It's a classical drama form where dozens of mask patterns, they stand for different characters, different ages, different genders, and some are human while others are immortal beings, meaning they're spirits and they can live forever. Right now, we're out of time, guys, so we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher one more time, and then we'll be back to sign off.
但是其实 口罩或者是所谓的面具还有别的功能，像在第3段我们就提到，在一个伪装的世界里面，就可以让我们匿名变成别人耶。在这个第3段的第一句啊，特别看关键字 In the world of disguise， 这里的 disguise 就是一个伪装，故意装成别的身份。那伪装的世界为什么要用面具来伪装呢？原来有一些不同的情境，例如后面的第2句呢，看到是 theme parties， 例如我们会有一些主题派对啦，甚至是比较严肃的场合，例如 protest， 如果在抗议当中，为了不让别人认出我们的 identity， 我们的身份，就可以用所谓的面具来作为 disguise， 作为伪装。所以这个 mask 的第2个功能就会说明在第3段。那当然接下来的第3句就会给我们一些实例啊，比如说漫画 V 怪客里面的这个主角啊，就是戴着 mask。 可是我们在第3段要特别注意一个文章的转折词语哦。第4句的第1个字 however 的话，文意就会转折，也就是说 however 之前就是这个 disguise 的伪装不错啊，因为我们在 party 啊或者是抗议当中就可以保护自己，别人就不会知道我是谁。但是也有滥用的情况哦，这个话锋一转就会转到负面的情况。所以在第4句最后一个字 robbers， 如果抢劫犯他就戴了一个面具，就认不出他是谁，哇，那这样子有犯罪意图的人利用面具就会做坏事耶。所以我们在文章阅读的时候，有时候要特别注意这些转成词语，它会出现一些文意相反的说明，甚至是重点哦。好，最后面的第4段我们特别提到了面具，其实它还有另外一个功能，它其实可以作为 symbol， 它可以作为象征，所以它是有象征意义的。什么意思啊？特别指的是在文化跟艺术当中，那它这样子的文意就出现在第4段第1句的地方。当然第2句当中就开始就仔细的讲到底哪些情况之下需要用面具当成 symbols， 比如说第2句提到的一些传统的 rituals， 一些仪式当中，可能佩戴者啊跟精神世界的当成一个面具的作为一个桥梁，一个 bridge。 好，在第3句的一开始 on the other hand， 我们这边也可以特别把它圈起来。然而在另外一方面又如何呢？这个另外一方面跟刚才我们第3段看到的 however 文意不太相同哦，因为它其实并没有刻意要反转文意的意思，它只是特别提到还有别种观点或者是别种说明。例如在第4段第3句，在另外一方面呢，除了是一种桥梁之外，基本上有一些表演的形式算是一种惯例啦，就是要戴着面具，因为以前开始到现在 convention 嘛，就是这个样子。所以其实我们说戴面具在仪式当中是个桥梁，或者是在艺术当中戴面具大家习惯都这么做，它其实并没有文意反转的意思哦，只是在同样的主题之下说明了不同的面向。那么这是第3个面具的功能，所以今天我们介绍了面具的3种功能。那么明天我们还会带大家看在几种节庆当中会戴面具，那是属于什么样的功能呢？我们明天见，我是安娜，拜拜。
That's it for today, guys. That's just day 1 of our unit on masks. So come back. We've got a lot more to share with you about some specific festivals that use masks that are kind of fun around the world. So you'll get kind of an international flavor of the use of masks. But that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom.
See you
Goodbye.
later.